Hello. Ooh, camera's a little close. Hello, everyone. My name is Madeline. Oh, I've lost my camera there for a sec. Hi, I'm Madeline. I'll just give everyone a few minutes here to come on. Um, yeah, I'm Madeline. I'm one of the interns here at Premier TEFL. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time for my voice today. I injured my throat a few days ago, so I sound a little raspy. So if you can't understand me at any point, please just let me know in the chat. I don't know if it's this way or this way on your screen, but please just let me know in the chat and I can repeat anything that I need to say. Hello, Alvin. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, but hello. It's so nice to see you. I'll just give everyone, like I said, a few minutes to come on in, get logged in, and then we'll get started talking about contracts, which I'm very passionate about talking about. So I'm really excited today to talk a lot about it. Um, yeah. Absolutely. I'm always happy to talk about traveling and tips and all sorts of things because I feel like when I started traveling, there wasn't really anybody to talk to. We didn't have as much great social media as today. So I'm always really happy to be able to talk to people and touch in with people and answer personal questions. It makes you feel a little bit more, I don't know, just a little bit more relieved when someone can answer directly your question. You don't have to look through blog after blog after blog. Great for those. I see more people are joining here. Hello. My name's Madeline. I am an intern here at Premier TEFL. Again, I'll just apologize in advance for my voice. I did injure my throat a few days ago, so I'm a little raspy still. So if you can't understand me at any point, please just let me know in the chat, and I'll be happy to repeat anything you can't hear. Okay, let's get started. We're 2 minutes in. So I'll just start by introducing myself a little bit. Like I said, my name is Madeline. I am an intern here at Premier TEFL. I did their internship for South Korea. So I live in Seoul, South Korea, which is super fun. It's an amazing part of our world. It's an amazing city to live in. And I have enjoyed every single moment of it. I've been here for almost a year now. Before coming here, I was a theater director and producer, and then I went into digital marketing. But I really wanted to be able to do something where I helped people, and I felt like teaching was a way to do that. So I got my certificate from Premier TEFL, and then I connected with them to do the internship as well. So, today we're going to talk about contracts, which is a really weird timing because I literally just signed a contract today and I was looking through it and I was going through my little checklist of all the things that you're supposed to go through. So, I have my notes. If you see me looking off to the side here, I'm just checking my notes to make sure I'm giving you all of the details. So, contracts, having a contract when you go abroad in any country, really for any job you have, is so important. There's three main things that I'm going to repeat again and again and again and again today. So if you're taking notes, write these three things down. It's know your rights, triple check everything, and get it in writing. Knowing your rights has saved me, has saved my friends, has saved all people around me so many things. Oh, thank you for the flower. That's lovely. But it saved me so much grief in my life. It helps me really to understand contracts better, and knowing your rights can be different in every single country. So it's really important to be able to research that. Triple check everything. I'm going to give you a big long list today of lots of great stuff that you should be looking for. This video will be recorded, so you can always come back to it. There's also going to be a blog post going up, so you'll be able to get some of the details there as well. And then get it in writing. This is my life motto. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. It doesn't matter how nice your boss is. It doesn't matter how much you trust that manager. It doesn't matter if that person said and that person heard. If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So get every single thing in writing. Your salary, your benefits, your vacation days, everything. If you're taking a day off and you're getting paid for it, or you're not getting paid for it, or somebody's covering for you, get it in writing. Put it in writing. That can be a text message, that can be an email, that can be handwriting, anything, as long as it's in writing. So, oh, we got lots more viewers. Hello, hello. I'll just repeat one more time. My name is Madeline. I injured my voice a few days ago, so if you cannot understand me, that's okay. I'm super raspy still. But if you just pop into the chat, I didn't understand that, I'll repeat everything for you. All right, so we're gonna get started. So, knowing your rights, know your rights. Whatever country you want to go to, whatever country you want to work in, if it's your home country, if it's a brand new country, just type it into Google, go onto Facebook groups, talk to agents that work in those countries, talk to somebody who's worked there before, find out what your rights are, find out what you legally should be getting, find out what the laws are to protect you. The same way that we learn about our own labor laws in our own home countries, you need to know your labor laws in that country as well. You need to know what's paid for. You need to know if you get medical through the government. You need to know if there are a certain amount of days you're allowed to work. You need to know if there's a certain amount of hours you're allowed to work. Um, I know I'm out here in Korea and there's only a certain amount of hours that I'm allowed to work a week. Over that, it's actually illegal, but a lot of schools here do it because they have people coming over, foreigners coming over that don't know what the laws are. Here in Korea, also, we get paid vacation days through the government, so they're called red days. And they're days that they are paid. You do not have to work those days, they are paid days. So, those sorts of things you really need to know, knowing how many breaks that you legally should get. Two, if you're going to a new country, a lot of the time, if there is a visa you have to apply for, the visa, all that thick package of paperwork that you'll usually get with a visa, that'll tell you a lot of the laws, a lot of the things that you have to abide by, but also a lot of the things that are just good for you to know. Um, so yeah, Google everything, look up on Facebook, talk to people that have gone to the country before, find those things, put them in a folder somewhere, and then be able to go back to them if you need. I have a big folder all about South Korea. I have a big folder all about the UK where I used to live as well. I have a big folder all about Canada, which is where I'm from, just because you really need to know these rights in order to help you. Um, Next is understanding your salary. So you could look at your salary and think, wow, that's amazing. That's so much money that I'm getting, or that looks awesome. But make sure that you understand how much of that money you're actually getting after taxes, after medical, of other hidden fees. And is that going to be enough for you to live in whatever area that you're living in? So, um, South Korea, I can only speak to that right now, but it's a very livable country, especially for the wages that most teachers come over to work on. But out of my paycheck comes about $400 each month, just gets taken right off the top. That's to cover 50% of my medical expense. So the government gives us free healthcare, but I pay 50%, my employer pays 50%. And then taxes, because I'm considered a resident, so I have to pay taxes for things. Um, Pay, oh, and other fees. So my school helps to pay all of my bills for me because I don't speak Korean. So I give them all my bills throughout the month, and then they take that off my paycheck. Then there's other fees as well, like the building I live in has a building maintenance fee. There's a foreigner fee for living here. It's like $3 a month. I don't really know what it's for. There's a garbage fee that I have to pay. So there's lots of other little fees. Thank you for the little heart. So cute. There's lots of other little fees, but if you ask your employer, hey, could you give me a rough idea of how much I will actually be taking home of my paycheck, they should be able to give that to you. The other thing about understanding your salary is knowing your payday and making sure that that's mentioned in your contract. So I get paid the 10th of every month, which is awesome. Um, but make sure that you have it stated in your paycheck because, or have it stated in your contract because some employers, not all, but there are employers out there that will try to not pay you or pay you late or kind of fuss about with what they're doing. And in that case, you can take your contract, you can go to the government, you can go to the visa office and say, hey, I'm not being paid. It states this in my contract. I'm supposed to be paid on this day of the month every month, and I haven't been paid yet, and it's 2 or 3 days afterwards. So really make sure that that's in writing. Get it in writing. Get it in writing. Get it in writing. And the other thing I would say about your salary, understanding your salary, is make sure you get a pay stub. Not all schools will do them, but I think that it's essential to have just to have a record of how much you're paying in taxes in case you have to pay tax in your own home country or when you do taxes at the end of the year. I use it as well. My pay stubs, my thankfully my school sends pay stubs that have all my bill information as well. So my water bill, my gas bill, my electricity, all of that is on there, so I can track it more easily. So that's the salary bit. Just really make sure that you understand what money is coming in, where the money is going out, and how much you'll actually have to live on by the end of it. Um, Also, check your hours. Check your hours. Like I said, knowing your labor laws, knowing how much money you're allowed to make while you're in the country, and how much money you're allowed to make, and how many hours you're allowed to work per week. So add that up. My contract right now is a little confusing. It breaks down the hours by different parts, and we have a whole bunch of breaks, and so it was confusing. I had to do a lot of math to be able to figure out, okay, this is actually the amount of hours I work in a week, and this is how much I'm getting paid per hour, and these are how many breaks I'm getting, and it was within the legal limit. Thankfully, my school is awesome. So being able to look at that and know exactly like, okay, I know how much I'm getting, and I know it's all within legal limit, and I know I'm working the legal amount of hours. Some schools, like I do work overtime sometimes, so my school also put that into my contract, how much overtime hours are, and I get a monthly overtime allotment. So checking how many hours, checking what kind of holidays you get. Make sure it's in your contract. Some schools will be like, "Oh, we'll figure it out later." No, put it in your contract. Again, that's a good thing to research whatever country you're going to. I know in South Korea, it's really normal if you're working in a private hagwon, that's like a private institute. You get about 10 holidays, 10, 5 in the summer, 5 in the winter. If you're working for a public school, you get a couple of months off because of the school year. They'll actually like take a break during the summer. So know what kind of a vacation is and know what the average is. Because I know some schools too, they'll be like, oh, you get 3 days off in the summer, 3 days off in the winter. And it's like, okay, but like every other school is going to give me 10. So should I sign with you? So know your holidays, know your vacations, and know your sick day policy. So how many sick days you get, are some of those paid? If they're not paid, what happens? How much gets deducted? Is it a full day salary? And in case, what does that mean? So just make sure you understand those things as well. It's not something you want to figure out when you're getting sick and you're worried about not having enough money or you're worried about not having enough hours. So make sure you understand that prior to signing your contract so you don't have to worry about it later. All right, what else do we have here? Mm. So, in a lot of countries, when you move abroad, you get free housing, which is great. You either get free housing or you get a housing stipend. So, I have free housing. It's by law, the in Korea, you have to have free housing. So, the school must provide you with a house, and this is where knowing your rights is really important. They must provide you with an accommodation, and it must be within a 20-minute walk of your school or two subway stations. So, not everybody gets that when they come here, and a lot of foreigners will just sort of accept wherever they get because they don't know the laws around it. So, I live super close to my school. It's awesome. It's an 8-minute walk to work every day. But I was really clear with my employer that I understood the laws and I really wanted to make sure that whatever housing they were getting for me, it was going to be near the school. So the laws are different in every single country you go to. So just make sure you understand what those laws are and don't be afraid to talk to your employer about it and say, hey, I just want to make sure that this is followed. I just want to make sure that this is happening. The other thing that can happen, and it does happen here in Korea, I know a lot of other countries, I think in Italy as well, they do this. You get a housing stipend. So instead of the school finding you housing or your employer finding you housing, you have to go and find your own housing. Now, this can be a lot more difficult. This is kind of when you ask the school for help, or maybe you go fly over a little bit early to check it out. But they'll give you a lump sum of money, and then you use that money every single month to be able to find your own house and talk to a landlord. It's super hard in places like Korea where a lot of the landlords are usually a bit older and they don't speak English. I can speak a little bit of Korean, but not enough to be able to talk to my landlord. So I'm super thankful my school found my housing for me, and if I need anything from my landlord, they're able to communicate. We got lots more viewers coming in. Hello. I'll just say another quick hello. My name is Madeline. I injured my voice a few days ago, so if you can't understand me at any point, please just pop into the chat. I don't know which way. It's this way on my screen, but it might be that way on your screen. So just pop into the chat and let me know I can't understand you. Or if you have questions, if I'm talking and you have questions, feel free to jump into the chat and say hi and ask away. I'll do a Q&A session at the end, but I can answer some little questions along the way. So we just talked about housing. Another great benefit of teaching abroad is usually you also get your flights paid for. So if you come to Korea, you get a flight to Korea. In 2019, you used to get a flight to Korea and home. But now, after COVID, I think they want a lot more of the teachers to stay. So they're hoping if they don't pay for a flight home, you'll stay. So, hello. So they will pay for your flight here, but they won't pay for your flight home unless you stay here for a little while. So I know with my school, the rule is that if you're there for 2 years, then they'll pay for your flight home, but they won't pay for your flight home if you've only been there a year. It's good to know as well, like if anything happens, let's say you get to the school and you really, really don't like it, and we'll talk more about that later. Um, but just know what happens with the flight. If you have to leave, do you have to pay them back? Um, are you going to pay for the flight ahead of time and then they'll pay you back later? Are they going to book the flight for you? So with my school, I booked my own flight, I paid for it, and then when I got to Korea, I gave them a receipt and they put it on my first paycheck. So some benefits of teaching abroad, other than just being able to be abroad and live in a different part of the world. You get free flights a lot of time, free housing, and then depending on where you are, usually some cheaper bills as well. All right. So just because we have some new viewers, I'm just gonna review a little bit of what we've been going over. So my top three rules. Get it in writing. Get every single thing in writing. If it's not in writing, it does not exist. Triple check everything. Check it, check it, check it again. Check your contract. This is going to be the thing that creates your living experience in a different country for another year or 6 months or maybe even 2 years. So check it, check it, check it, check it, check. And the third thing is know your rights. Know your rights in that country. Research it, spend hours and hours and hours reading all of the boring stuff, but you will thank yourself if anything happens that you knew how to protect yourself. Because we never want to think about the bad experiences when we're going abroad. We're always excited and we want to go out there and just explore things. And of course, it is exciting and amazing, probably about 95% of the time. But there are those times where you have to be able to protect yourself the same way you would in your own home country. So make sure that you understand what those laws are and how to protect yourself so that when that situation comes up, you're not flustered or upset. You know what to do, you know what to say, you know what you deserve to have and what your rights are. So, what else? Oh, what you're responsible for. This always seems a little odd, but it's really important to have a job description. I know that in Korea, there's a lot of different kinds of teaching jobs. Some jobs, you're almost like babysitting the kids all day. Some jobs is strictly teaching. I know for my school, I do strictly teaching. So in my classroom, I also have a Korean teacher who's my co-teacher. And they handle all of the like bathroom breaks, lunch, if a kid throws up on themselves or has a fever or anything like that, the Korean teacher takes over, they take care of them. So that's really useful, especially because I teach little kids, I teach kindergarten, and they when they're sick, they don't want to try to speak English. When they don't feel well, they don't want to speak English. If they're not, if they're upset about something, they don't want to speak English. So it's really nice I really appreciate having my co-Korean teacher because she just swoops in and she's able to speak Korean to them and take care of them. There are teaching jobs within Korea and other countries as well that you take care of everything. So you take them to the bathroom, you change their clothes if something happens, you serve them lunch and you sit with them and eat with them. And I have teaching friends that love that. They love doing they say like the mom stuff. They love being able to do all of that with the kids. So just understand in your job description, what do you do? Do you teach? Do you take care of the kids? Are there other things that you do? And I know there's always that little other duties as necessary section, but ask your employer. What does that mean? Does that mean that I will be changing diapers? Does that mean that I'm going to be, like dealing with accidents in the bathroom? Am I going to have time to eat lunch on my own? Do I get that break or do I eat with the kids? So make sure you understand that and then are you okay with it? If I had to eat lunch with my kids, I would be fine with that. I love my kids. I love being around them. We just put a little movie on. It's fine. But if I had to deal with things like bathroom breaks, I'm not as comfortable with that. So it's totally up to you, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you want to do. So yeah, just make sure you understand what the job description is. There's also things like understanding what kind of classes you'll be teaching. So I teach kindergarten in the morning and then I teach elementary school in the afternoon. So in Korea, because I come over, I don't have a science degree. I don't have a math degree. I'm an English teacher. So I'm here to teach the kids English. Even if I'm teaching them science, I'm teaching them the vocabulary. I'm teaching them how to pronounce things. I'm teaching them more the phonics aspect than I am the actual science aspect. But you need to understand what are the laws, again, know what you're allowed to do. Um, to be able to understand if that's okay in the job description. So I am not allowed to teach science classes. I'm not allowed to teach math classes. I am not allowed to teach classes that don't have to do with English. I'm not allowed to teach classes that are higher level, like above high school. I have to get a separate degree for that. I have to, not degree, but I have to get a separate certification for that or have a degree in it. Um, so make sure you know because that can actually mess up your visa. If you don't know, and there was a whole bunch of teachers that were deported from Korea a few years ago because they were teaching a bunch of science and math classes, they just thought it was okay. The government came in and said, no, you should have looked up the legality around this, and they were deported. So that can be a little scary. So again, like know your rights, know what you're allowed to do, and make sure that's in your job description that nothing says, oh, you're gonna be a science teacher for, 60 hours a week. And then you end up getting deported and it's a black mark on your visa. Um, oh my goodness, so many more people joining. Hi. Um, I'll just say again, if you have any questions, whichever way the chat is for you, feel free to pop that in there. Or if you have any just like other, even if it's not contract related, if you have other questions that you want to ask about living abroad, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm happy to talk about it. So, the next thing I'm going to talk about is probably the most important thing. And it's, like I said before, we never want to think about the worst. We never want to think about bad things happening. Um, oh, thanks, Candace. I'm going to chat about this and then I will absolutely answer your question right afterwards. That's a great question. So, we never want to think about bad things happening, but they do sometimes, unfortunately. And it's better to be prepared than to kind of end up in a sticky situation. So, I think the most important thing that you should look for on your contract is what happens if you need to break that contract. So let's say you interview with an employer, it's amazing, it's awesome, it's perfect, it's wonderful. You get your flight, you fly to the country, you get there, and it's nothing like you discussed. Maybe the manager is abusive, maybe the working conditions are dangerous, maybe you're doing extra hours without being paid, maybe you're not being paid. Whatever the case is, if that's happening, leave right away. If you're able to, leave right away. This is why I say check what is in your contract for breaking it. So in my contract, the only thing that I need to do if I want to break my contract, so I sign a year-long contract. So if I want to break that contract and leave before a year, all I have to do is give them 90 days notice. That might seem like a lot, but I don't have to pay a penalty. I don't have to do anything else. If I leave before those 90 days, which in some cases, I'm sure I have a really wonderful, lovely employer. I cherish them. Um, if, like, let's say there was a family emergency, you can always talk to your employer about that, get it in writing, but and say, I need to leave the country right now. But 90 days is kind of it's an okay thing to be able to do. I know that I've had some friends that have had contracts, some friends in China that had one of my friends in China that had a contract, and she would have had, if she broke the contract at any point, she would have had to pay back her entire year's salary if she left. So obviously, she didn't figure that out until she had signed the contract and got there and realized it wasn't for her. So she did end up doing the full year. But she was miserable the whole time. And do you really want to put yourself in a situation where you're unhappy for a whole year and you're supposed to be on this exciting adventure? So really just make sure you understand, like, I don't sign contracts if there's major penalties for breaking that contract. Um, Especially if it's financial. If it's just some extra days that you have to work, okay, well, you can kind of like suck it up and get through it, or at least I know I can. But if it's like, oh, you have to pay, I think she has to pay something like $8,000 Canadian. So I think that's around like $6,000 American if she broke her contract, which is just unbelievable. Um, so really make sure you understand because you never know what you're walking into until you're actually there at the school. There can be some schools that have some really great names. I'm at a school in Korea right now. It has an amazing name. It's one of the most well-known schools for like last several decades. Um, and that's why I signed with it. I didn't realize until I got here that there's like 40 locations across Korea. And so I was super fortunate that the location I came to, they're very, very chill, lovely, wonderful human beings, and it fit with who I am. But there's other locations that I've heard really bad stories from, and other chains in Korea as well, Hagwons in Korea. But that is globally as well. You could hear many good things about a school, but then you get there and maybe it just doesn't fit for you, or maybe it does become an abusive environment if there's someone toxic there, that you just don't get along with. So make sure you understand what would happen if you break that contract. I think that's like the number one thing I would look for. The next thing would be looking at your salary, making sure you understand your salary, making sure it's fair, it works out. You're not getting paid like $3 an hour or something, which happens. So check, make sure you're not working. Like I work really long hours. I work 10 hours a day with kids, and that is exhausting. But I get lots of breaks. So that makes it way easier. So it's long days, but I get a lot of rest. There's some schools that you don't. You're just going and going and going and going. And like I talked about before, you're kind of doing the mom thing. Like I get to step away at lunch. I get to step away for my prep blocks. I have little breaks in between kindergarten and elementary. So I get to like step away a lot and just be able to like, get a glass of water, sit down. I have 10-minute breaks between all my classes, which is great as well, just to be able to like run to the bathroom, get a glass of water, whatever I need. So check what happens if you need to break your contract. Check what happens with your salary. Check your benefits. Check your holidays. Check your medical, what is covered in your medical. If you're paying for it, what is covered in it. Check your sick time. What kind of sick time do you get? Make sure you understand what the taxes are. So a lot of different countries will have tax laws that connect to your home country. So I'm Canadian in Korea. My employer will pay into my pension, my Canadian pension fund. So when I leave Korea, I can apply for that money. I can take it back to Canada. I can put it in my pension fund. I know that the United States has that as well with Korea, and I know there's lots of places in Europe. especially if you're from a Commonwealth country. But there's lots of places in Europe that Commonwealth countries and America, they kind of have a bond where you can have your taxes go back and forth. You don't have to claim certain taxes, and it's just worth researching so that if something happens, you don't suddenly have to worry about it. Um, all right, last big thing I'll talk about, and then I'm happy to jump into questions. So feel free, put all your questions in the chat, and I will be answering those in just a minute since I'm done my little checklist that's on the side here. The last thing, and again, we always want to think the best of people, but uh, check every little detail on your contract because check that the name adds up, that it's the actual name of the school you're going to. Make sure the name of the person signing it is actually your director or manager or principal. Make sure that the address is the same as the school you're actually going to. Because what can happen, and unfortunately, it doesn't happen often, but I have seen it happen to people in Korea. I have seen it happen to people in Thailand as well. Is that they'll put the name of a different school on your paperwork. And I don't fully understand the reason why. It's something to do with like taxes in that country. Uh, but then you show up and you are sent to a different school. So that's all well and good until something happens and then the government says, you don't actually have a contract with this school. You don't actually work for these people. So you're getting deported. So even if it seems like little details that you just kind of brush over, check it. Check the dates. Like make sure you like have a signed copy. Like when I first signed my contract, I sent it to my director and I guess they signed it on their end, but they didn't send me a signed copy. So I just had the copy I signed. And I had to email her a couple of times and be like, hey, I just need this for my own records because if anything happens, I need to be able to prove that I work for your school. So she was fine. She was good. She wasn't trying to pull anything funny, but it's always good to be able to have those things just in case. Okay. Sorry again for those just joining us. Injured my throat a few days ago, so if you can't hear me for any reason or want me to repeat anything, please feel free just to let me know in the chat. So let's jump into some of these questions. So, Candice, hi, is your contract permanent or you get to decide how long you want to stay? How long have you been in Korea? Great question, Candice. Thanks so much. So I have been in Korea. It's coming up to a year. In 10 days, have been here a year. Um, so it depends on the country. So in Korea, you sign year-long contracts. You sometimes can do 6-month contracts, but it's very rare just because you have to think about like if you're coming as a teacher, they want you to stay for the entire school year. They don't want to be switching out teachers halfway through the year. It's really disruptive to the kids, especially like I teach little kids, and they get so attached to you. Like in Korean, they call you mom, they call you school mom because sometimes they actually spend more time with you than they do with their parents, which always makes me want to cry. But um, so it's really disruptive when you leave. There are other countries I know. I believe in Thailand and Vietnam, you can do 6-month contracts, and that's usually, I think, with private schools. Um, but I know in Korea, you have to do year-long contracts, and then you can sometimes turn that to a 6-month contract if you already have a relationship with that employer. But it totally depends on the country. I know there's lots more information on the Premier TEFL website. And you can also, I'm going to pop the Premier TEFL email in here as well. Um, just making sure I'm spelling this correctly. Premier TEFL. Great. So you can also, if you have any questions that I don't answer in this, or later on you're like, oh, I really wish I'd asked that, feel free to email. I think the chat's that way. I don't know what way the chat is on my screen, your screen. Um, Feel free to email Premier TEFL and just ask them. The team is so friendly. Um, I, I didn't really talk about this at the beginning, but when I was looking for schools, I am very anxious. I'm a very nervous person. So I was totally drawn into the Premier team because they were so lovely and friendly. And every single question I had, they were just like, Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Yep, here's all the answers. Oh, you forgot about it? It's okay. Here's all the answers again. So if you have any questions, it's like chatting with friends. Please feel free to reach out to them. They will totally let you know. Um, but yeah, it's kind of different in every country. You're so welcome, Candice. Um, and Albin, how has being a Premier TEFL intern been better than going on your own? You know what? It's just having someone there. This was my first time. I've lived abroad quite a lot. I think this is my one, two, second or th no, third or fourth country that I've lived abroad in. And usually I just go by myself. But this is the first time I was teaching. I was really, really nervous because it's a country that I don't speak the language. I didn't know a lot about their laws. And so I really just wanted to be able to have someone that when I was super anxious, I could send them a list of questions and be like, please help me. I'm scared. And they were so nice about it. So I really appreciated that from the moment that I logged in to start my certification all the way through until now. Like I still talk to my contacts at Premier TEFL probably weekly. I love that I'm able to send them an email at any point in time and be able to chat with them and ask them questions. And if they don't know, they're happy to point me in the direction of someone that does know. Um, so I really appreciated that. I'll talk a little bit about my process as an intern. So I signed up for the internship and then I got my certification that I did, which was super quick, super easy. It was awesome. Um, and then once I was done that, they helped me gather all my paperwork together and I was connected to kind of like a middleman agency and they helped me like get all my paperwork. And if you're from Canada, there's so much paperwork to move abroad. But they helped me. They gave me lists, they gave me videos, they gave me a really great like cultural workshop that I did to help me like understand a little bit of Korean. I got free Korean lessons as well, which was cool. Understand a little bit of Korean, understand the culture more, understand the food, the history, a little bit more about their language in terms of the history of the language, which is fascinating. Um, and then and once all of that was collected and we have everything together, then I was connected with an agency that works with Premier TEFL, and they helped me actually get all my interviews. My timeline was super tight because a bunch of my paperwork was messed about. So I had to get a job like within 3 weeks and like be on a plane, and they did it. It was amazing. So that was kind of the start of my internship with them. And then since then, I help with things like webinars. I help do blogs for them as well, and I help make videos. If you follow them on social media, you might have seen my face once in a while. Um, but I help put some stuff together for them, and then I'm gonna do a little shameless little plug here, but with one of the videos I created for Premier TEFL, we actually were able to submit that to the Go Abroad awards that are happening right now, which is like the teaching abroad school awards, and they're doing a video award right now. So I was shortlisted. I was picked as one of the top 5 people to be in that, and so the voting is happening right now. And if you're on the Premier email list, you might have seen some plugs for that as well. So if you see it and you like my video, please vote for me. That'd be awesome. Um, sorry, I'm really bad at promoting myself, but uh, so yeah, those are kind of some of the opportunities that I've gotten to do with them. And of course, it's really fun being able to talk more. Like I've lived abroad a lot, so I have a lot of information to share. And I really love being able to have this connection to this community and be able to talk about it more often and be able to talk about it with a wider audience. So sorry, that was a really long answer to your question. Um, can non-speakers have a 12-month contract? This one I've found for non-native. Um, Nancy, are you asking about for in Korea or just in any country in general? Oh, sorry, I just saw your other message. I could read the screen. In Korea, all contracts in Korea are 12 months. If it's 6 months, I would be a little wary of it. I'd check it out. Maybe they're starting to do more 6-month contracts. But You should be able to, as long as you have to have a certain level of, if you're a non-native speaker, you have to have a certain level of English speaking. I don't know, some countries you have to do a test that you then have to submit. But I have lots of friends. I have one friend who's from India, and I mean, she speaks like six languages, but English is not her first language. And she's been here for 3 years. She always does year-long contracts. And she just signed a government contract, which is like the top contract that you can get if you're a foreigner here. Um, but you should be able to do it as long as you have a high enough English level, then you should be able to. Um, that is something that I would reach out to the TEFL team. Here, I'll pop their email in again. And they can probably give you a little bit more details or at least point you in the right direction for that. And I'm holding a BA in English language teaching from Turkey. Cool. Um, so it depends on the country. So some countries you have to have a TEFL certification. Some countries you have to have a bachelor's degree. So in Korea, you have to have a bachelor's degree. But you're so welcome, Manchi. Um, but it doesn't matter where it's from, or it doesn't. Sorry, it doesn't matter where it's from. It doesn't matter what it's in. So my bachelor's degree is in acting. So I guess I understand like voice, but I don't have like an English teaching degree at all. Um, but if you I mean, if you have a bachelor's degree in English language teaching, I don't think you need to have a TEFL certification. Um, in Korea, you don't have to be TEFL certified. It is just it it is the teachers that I've seen here that I've worked with that aren't TEFL certified or don't have any teaching background. I'm not talking about you. If you have a bachelor's, that's much higher than a TEFL certification. But uh, you need some sort of background in teaching. I've watched teachers come here and think they're going to be okay, and they just like flop around like a fish. They do not know what's going on. They don't know how to handle their classroom. They don't know how to handle homework. They don't know how to handle their books. So yeah, I think that look at the laws. Some countries you must have a TEFL certification. But if you have something as high as a bachelor's degree, I don't think so. But that's also just something really make sure it's at the top of your resume so that everybody knows. But yeah, that's awesome. You have a bachelor's degree. I hope you find amazing jobs. That's so cool. Great. Okay. If anybody has any other questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I'm just going to kind of do like a recap of the things that we've talked about. And if nobody has any questions, we'll kind of just wrap up here. I can feel my voice fading slowly. Um, so just to kind of go over again what we were talking about, and in case you're taking notes, to check your notes. Um, know your rights. Know your rights. Google it, ask in groups, in Facebook groups, email the Premier TEFL team. Like, just look at what the visa requirements are. Just know what you need to protect yourself. Because really, at the end of the day, someone can seem so nice here. I have heard stories of the nicest managers that just went wild. Um, sorry. So, choking on camera. That's great. Um, just know your rights, know how to protect yourself, really know how to protect yourself. Um, understand your salary. How much money are you making? Is it going to be enough to support you? What's the amounts that are going to come out of that? What are the taxes that are going to come out of that? What are the other fees? Making sure you understand your pay, what day you're getting paid, and the benefits that you'll be receiving. So, do you get free housing? Do you get a housing stipend? Do you get, what are your holidays? What are your vacations? What are your sick days? What do you get from medical? If you're paying for medical, what are you actually receiving from it? And on top of that, what are the things that you possibly can opt out of? What things do you not need? If the medical plan is optional and you can find a better one, then find a better one. Take care of yourself first. Flight reimbursement. Do you get flights? Who's paying for it? How's it going? What happens with that? What are you responsible for? Your job description. So, so, so important to know what you have to do. And then breaking contract. Just really make sure you understand, okay, like if that horrible situation happens, how do you get out of it? How do you protect yourself? Because at the end of the day, you're going to take care of yourself more than anybody else. And you have to do that. You don't want to be stuck somewhere for a year that's um, toxic, or that's a horrible experience for you, or that you're being used, or that's dangerous. So really make sure that you understand, okay, what's your line? Like, when are you going to leave a job? And then what happens if you leave that job? And whatever the consequences is. For me, it's just giving 90 days, but if it's paying a fine, if it's reimbursing the flights, whatever, are you prepared to do that if you have to? Do you have a backup plan, a safety net to catch you if that's the case? I know in Korea, if you leave a job, you can stay in the country for 30 days to find a new job. So a lot of agencies will help you right away. You can connect with an agency, they'll help you right away to find a new job. It's different in every single country, but I know here I've had one friend that had to go through it. They left the job, they found a new job within a week. And it was just, they were in a really awful, horrible situation with their job. And then they found a new job and they loved it. They got to be an art teacher, which is like super rare here, but they have a master's in art, so they got to be an art English teacher. Um, and they're so much happier and so glad that they switched out that opportunity. So, really, really make sure that you are checking what happens in the worst case scenario, because usually once we have a worst case scenario safety net, we don't have to use it. At least those are the situations I've found, is like once you've kind of prepared for it, then it's not the thing that happens. And the very last thing is check all the little details. Check the name of the school, check the address, check the phone number, check the person's name that's on it. Make sure you have a signed copy. Check the dates. Like I said at the beginning of this, I'm signing a contract today with my school. I'm staying on for another year with them, and everything looked amazing and wonderful and great. But in my salary, there was one zero missing, and it was me going down from earning several $1,000s a month to earning several $100s a month just because of conversion. And so I sent it back, and my boss laughed, and she's like, I've totally made a mistake. It's fine." But something like as simple as that, right? Just making sure that every single letter, word, T, I, dotted, crossed, everything. Um, yeah. So if there's three things you're gonna take away for today, thank you. That's such a cute heart. If there's three things you're gonna take away today, get it in writing. It doesn't exist if it's not in writing. Get it in writing. If you take one thing away from this today, just get it in writing, please. Please, 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 please get it in writing. Triple check everything. Triple check everything. And then the third one is know your rights. Know your rights, protect yourself. All right, I haven't seen any other questions come through, but I'll hold on for a few minutes here if anybody has any other questions. That's my whole spiel. But I'll pop the Premier email in here one more time if you want to copy and paste that anywhere just to hold on to. You can also use, if it's during their office hours, they also have one of those like little chats that you can pop into. And there's a lovely human being on the other side of that. It's not just a robot, which is great. I think Aveen is the one that's usually on there, and she's awesome. But yeah, if nobody has any questions, we'll wrap up. Um, Feel free as well to go on to the TEFL website, Premier TEFL website. They have so many blogs on there. I write their South Korea blogs, so you can see my face lots on there. Um, but there's also so many blogs and content from other interns from all over the world. And so you can always connect with them on social media as well. I'm on the Premier TEFL social media. You can also connect with me here. I'll give you my um, that's my Instagram handle if you want to come and find me and just shoot me a message. I'm also more than happy to always answer questions on there, or at least point you in the right direction of where to find answers. So feel free to, if social media is more your thing, you can pop on there, ask me a question, or you can shoot an email to Premier TEFL. Everybody on the team is so lovely. Mm. Master student internship will benefit you in any country. Oh, either's fine. Master's degree, absolutely. People look at you, you'll probably end up getting like higher level jobs. Actually, if you have a master's degree in English, you might even be able to work at university levels, which is like, that's good money. Um, but yeah, I think in any country, master's degrees look great on your resume. So I don't have like like I've taught at a college setting, a university setting before, but I taught as a theater instructor and a director. So it's definitely very different than the normal formal school setting. But you can come over with no teaching experience. So when you get your TEFL certification, if you don't have any teaching experience, you can do your TEFL certification, and that gives you experience. So when I was first coming over to Korea, they asked me to make a video, just a fake video of me teaching a class for 5 minutes. So I set up a little white wall. I like printed off cute little kindergarten things and I like pasted it to my wall. And then I just kind of like was like, okay, kids, like let's get together. And I just recorded it, edited it into something cute, and I sent that out with my resume. So even though I didn't have like formal in classroom experience, I had university level experience, which is very different than kindergarten. And then I had informal experience because I'd worked in educational settings for 10 years, but it was all in theater. So it wasn't classrooms, it wasn't little kids. I worked with university students and high school students. So that little video just showed them, okay, what is she going to be like in a classroom? Is she able to make eye contact? Is she able to like actually take an idea and be able to translate it to little people, little humans? So even if you don't have experience, we have three new teachers at my school that have never taught before. This is like their first teaching job ever. But they got TEFL certified, and also through the TEFL certification, you can usually do where you like either teach online or you connect with schools in your area and you go in and you teach them for a little bit and you're able to get that in classroom experience. So that's another aspect of when you get your TEFL certification, you can do that through the school as well. I know Premier TEFL does that. I think there's an online version that you can do with them. That's really cool. Um, so yeah, if you don't have any experience, it's okay. It's okay. I would say just like make sure you definitely get your certification then. And like experience can be anything. Like it can be you babysit kids, like you spend time with kids. It means you could be a counselor. You did a big sister or big brother program. It means that you could even put on your in your cover letter like I have nieces and nephews and I babysit them every weekend. Like as long what they really want to know about teachers is just that you understand how to work with kids. You're not going to get in the classroom and not know how to talk to children. You're not going to get in the classroom and not understand that especially kids that are learning English for the first time. Like, I teach 7-year-olds in kindergarten, and like, they're pretty smart, but sometimes I'll say a word and they look at me like I am a crazy person. And I have to be like, okay, right, they don't understand even words that 7-year-olds in Canada would understand. So it's definitely a learning experience, but a lot of schools will take you. You'll start off at a lower wage, and then as you get experience, you'll get a higher wage. So because I had informal experience, but I did have experience in an educational setting, I actually got a higher wage because of that. If you have a master's, you'll get like the top wage, and then you can also like teach at higher levels like colleges. Great. Okay. I'm not seeing any more questions popping up here. But if you have anything, say it now. I'll give you 1 minute, then we'll move our days on. All right. Okay. I'll just wrap up here then. You're so welcome. Thank you for asking such great questions. Um, so yeah, like I said, if this all closes down and you go, oh, I forgot to ask, shoot an email to the Premier TEFL team. They're so lovely. You can find me on Instagram. My handle's on there as well. You can come and send me a message as well. And I would say just, I don't know, if I hope none of this scares you, I hope it just makes you cautious. Like understanding your contract is so important because it sets you up for the whole year or 6 months or anything like that. Um, so don't let it scare you. I know there's lots of scary aspects about moving abroad, but this is all really just to prepare you. Because once you know these things, then you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be nervous. You know it. So set yourself up, protect yourself, get it in writing, know your rights, so that you're able to really just enjoy your time when you're abroad. But yeah, if you have questions, reach out. Like I said, there's also so many good blogs. I go on there all the time and read blogs from other interns, and I'm like, oh, maybe I want to go to Thailand. Oh, maybe I want to go to Vietnam. Oh, and there's so many cool places that you can go and teach. So if you're thinking about teaching abroad, just do it. Just do it. You're never going to look back in your life and regret the adventures that you go on. Even if there's bad days, you're always going to look back and be thankful that you had that story that you can share. That time, that year I spent living in South Korea, or that year I spent living in Thailand, or that year I spent living in Spain or Italy or Brazil or wherever. Um, I just think it's so worth it in our life stories when we look back to be able to say, yeah, I did that cool thing. I was brave and I went and I did it. And there were some maybe good and bad things that happened, but I did it. So yeah, I would just say be brave, get it in writing, know your rights, check everything. Um, yeah. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out and find me. Uh, Ask the Premier TEFL team. And they have so many other, if you look on their Facebook page, they have so many cool live events on here as well. I was watching a bunch before. So if you have other questions, also look through there. They have great videos. But I think we'll wrap it up there. So thank you so much for coming and joining. I am always happy to see people getting excited and asking questions. Oh, does the market accept certified TEFL holders in other African countries besides South Africa? Ooh, I do not know the answer to that. I am so sorry. But that would be a great question for, I'll put their email in here again. That's a great question for the Premier TEFL team, because I know they know a lot about that, but unfortunately, I don't know a lot about the laws outside of South Africa. Um, so check it out with the Premier TEFL team. They'll be able to help you. Um, all right. Well, have a good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And I hope that you are able to be brave and go out there and create an exciting story for yourself. So, bye. Thanks for joining today. Bye.